Hey everybody, Randy Patterson here with Boomerosity. On April 30th of this year, and I'm recording this in early days of May, May 4th to be exact, 2025. On April 30th, Joe Louis Walker, great guitarist, blues guitarist at that, passed away surrounded by his family and friends. I had the privilege of interviewing Joe Louis on two occasions. Once in 2020, it was a phone interview, and I put that out on the website against a slideshow. I have to admit, it's kind of a poor editing job on my part. And so I've re-edited it and making it available for you guys to listen to in honor of his memory, because I don't want him to be forgotten. I will also make available the video interview that took place the following year in 2021, again being re-edited to make it a little more palatable to sit through. I edited that one myself, and my editing skills have improved a little, so I wanted to spiff it up for him and put it out there in the best way I can. I encourage you to watch that one or listen to it as well. In both interviews, he was gracious, kind, informative, just a great guy to talk to. And I really hate to hear that he's passed. But I don't want his memory to be forgotten, so I'm making these two interviews available. And as always, I ask that if you would just hit like, and if you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. It's not going to cost you anything, but it helps us out a lot. And I hope that if you've enjoyed the interviews, that you'll share them as well. So without any further ado, here is what was my first interview with Joe Louis Walker, and I encourage you to look up the second one that I'll post right after this. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerosity. Rest in peace, Joe Louis Walker. Hello, this is Randy.
Hey, Randy, it's Joe Louis calling.
Hi, how you doing, Joe?
Oh, goodness, to be expected. How are you?
I'm doing great. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from right off the Hudson River, going towards upstate New York.
Oh, okay. All righty. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how's this?
Near Woodstock. Near Woodstock.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I'm there.
Yeah. Well, good deal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how's the pandemic affecting you right now?
Well, I mean, I think it's affecting me just like it's affected most of the people in the world. You know, it's you know, just as a citizen, it's rough because we you know, we have a situation where we have something that's spreading that we don't seem to be able to get our arms around it. Mm-hmm. But as a musician, it's almost like a death sentence for a lot of music, and I should just say musicians. I got a lot of friends that are actors that can't do movies, and people that act on Broadway too, and the musicians that work in the pit, and you know, any number of things. Just not me, but just personally as a musician, I think it's the first time in my life where the music has a gigantic question mark as to how it's going to come back. Because it's not going to come back the same as it was. Right. So that's keeping plenty of therapists in business. I know, because a lot of my musical friends are going crazy. But it's also a lot of people who love music and love to go see music. That bond you get, you know, when you go to a concert and you meet somebody, and next thing you know, then you're a friend of yours. You know, you bond over music, and just the joy that music brings, the cathartic feeling from music, and for people to go see a show or see a play or see a new movie or something live. It's sort of like our organic pride thing that we do as a race, as a human race, you know. Yeah. And, to have everybody split up in their little cubicles, you know, just watching the worst of humanity, you know, just watching the worst. People dying, and of course it's political season, which means that it's stupid season, actually. Yeah. So we got all that going on, you know, and God knows who, you know, and we have 40-something million of our brothers and sisters out of work, including yours truly. You know, and with no plan whatsoever. You know, we had SDR for the last time with the CCC Conservation Corps, and he came up with different things and always had some ideas, you know. But it seems like that was that part is we're all in it together. That part was real.
Yeah, boy, that's the truth. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's like, you know, who can I ostracize to show them you ain't in it with us? So, you know, we're we did. And I have faith in the young people that are coming up, young people out there doing the same things that I was doing when I was their age. I was demonstrating for gay rights. I demonstrated for people with civil rights. I demonstrated for women's rights. I demonstrated for senior rights. I demonstrated for just we didn't need too much to demonstrate. When I was in California, if there was a cause, we demonstrated and we played for it. So my heart goes to these young people, you know, trying to do the right thing, trying to change things,
yeah.
You know, and I hope to God that if anybody looks out of their window now, and they got a picture of what it looked like. You live in New York City, if you lived in Paris or whatever, big city, and you got a picture of what it looked like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Look at the smog, everything, and then look what it looks like now. Mm-hmm. So we have a chance to keep to work in that direction now. So, you know, because I think we really have had everybody was sort of. Oh, well, if we do climate change and so doesn't do climate change, it's not going to help the ozone. Well, when they locked them back for everybody, they took a picture. I don't know if you've ever seen it. They took several pictures of our sky. Yeah. And you could literally see the Himalayas in certain parts of India. And I think that's what young people like Greta, the young lady from Scandinavia, was talking about. That's what young people, and also, you know, somebody said something very interesting. If you're from America, you know, during the pandemic, not one school shooting for kids, right? None of that. We sort of got none to that. Not very much. Where I live in New York, every day somebody got hit by a car. None of that. You know, there's so many things that we had sort of put our arm on for when everything stopped. You know, wow, man, now the deer are coming down to my house. Oh, wow, now my family of skunks have came back. Now my squirrels are back. The deer are walking down the street, you know, and it's just, and you know, I don't mean to, you know, go off on a tangent, but it's just like, I think there's an opportunity here for the race to change basic things. You know, basic things. And I do believe that the majority of us really want to change some things. Like, you know, just one little thing. Okay, if you're working and you go to work and you drive your car and your car has an even numbered license plate, 244. Then on even days, on days, you drive your car to work with a carpool who has like-minded license plate. On the odd days, the people, they do the same thing. That would cut down on so many emissions. And that's just the easy one. That's easy fix, you know. But I know the majority of us want to do something like that, but, you know, it's going to be really hard when you got, you know, people who really believe that coal's going to come back, you know. Yeah. People are going to be what? We're going to have a rush to go down in the coal mine? It's not realistic. So, you know, I just hope that we could turn some lemons into lemonade. We got an opportunity here in a lot of different areas. And I don't think a lot of these young people are going to go back to where they were going backwards, and I don't blame them.
Yeah. Well, I know for me, I have a day job that pays my bills, and you know, I'm not a musician, but I love interviewing musicians, and but that's my passion. My day job's what pays my bills, and so. You know, I used to do a lot of driving back and forth, you know, bouncing between Nashville and where I'm at right now, up in the Smoky Mountains. And boy, I tell you, my driving's cut down about 90% or more. And I'm okay with it. I like working remotely. It's, I've done it a lot over the last 10 or 15 years, and I think it's great. And I think if, a big portion of the working population who is able to work from home and develop that discipline to work from home, because it takes a lot of discipline, that'll help, the pollution thing like you were talking about. And I think that's a great thing. But, you mentioned something that I had it down to ask you about anyway. Kind of get my questions out of order here. But in reading your background, I saw where you went back in the early days. I saw that where you went back to or went to school at San Francisco State and played in a gospel group there. And I just thought it was kind of a little ironic. I mean, it's not an exact comparison here, but my first year of college was in Fresno at a little Bible college there, and I saw where you played in a gospel group while you were in the early '80s out in San Francisco and all that, and I was about three or so years ahead of you there, but I went to a little Bible college called West Coast Bible College, and there in the north end of Fresno. And anyway, I just thought it was a little ironic there. But
it's even more ironic because when my dad moved from Mississippi and with my mother and everybody and my grandmother, we settled in Madera.
Oh, really?
So my first 7-8 years on this earth, I lived in Madera. My grandmother still has a house there.
Oh, I'll be darned.
I think my uncle rented it out when my grandmother passed.
Uh-huh.
But I spent so much time in Madera, Fresno, Merced, all up through there. My daughter was born in Bakersfield.
I'll be darned.
My oldest daughter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, one more thing before I start talking to you about your album is I talked to a young lady last week that and you helped her out on her album, and that was Shirley King. And she spoke very highly of you. I love the work you did on her album. And, she spoke very highly of you, Joe. She, talked about when after, of course, her father died, you were the only one that reached out to her and communicated with her from all the people that supposedly were friends with BB, and even some of her family didn't reach out to her. So she spoke very highly of you, and I think that speaks volumes about the kind of man you are. So.
Well, yeah, I know what she was going through, and she knows I was tight with her dad, and I was tight with Shirley, even Claudette, and one of the sons and whatnot, or what have you. But I know it hit Shirley hard because, I'm like I said, I know some of the other, some of BB's other kids, but I think Shirley, for some reason, and I don't even know how to even put it in the words, but I think that she captures the spirit of BB. She's a people person.
Oh, yeah.
She's a serious people person. And she, and so was BB. And so I know that she, it was hard to grieve, have a private grievance for someone you loved as much as you love her daddy, when the whole world is doing the same thing. The whole world is asking you every day, we're sorry. How was it with your dad when and she wasn't able to be around him really, I don't think, at the end that much. So,
yeah.
It was just, and he was a people person, and I think if the powers to be had let his friends be around him, his transition would have been, there might have been a smile on his face, but, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, well, let's shift to your album. I love it. It's a great album. I think it's going to do extremely well. And my personal favorite on the album is the first cut, "Feed the Poor," man. But the whole thing is great. And just wanted to see if you could tell me a little bit about the background of the album, what led up to it, and how long it took you to put it together, that kind of thing.
Well, to be quite honest, we started doing this record about 2015. We started doing the sessions, some of the sessions, because I was doing another one called "Everybody Wants a Piece," and I said, well, let's do some tracks, and we did some more tracks, and that's pretty cool. So we did about 4 tracks over the album, and then the record we were working on had finished. "Everybody Wants a Piece," was nominated for the Grammy, so we got another maybe 2 years of work off that record. So I couldn't go in and do this record. So what happened was I started putting together some more songs, and you know, you meet friends, you play all around different places, and certain things pick you. I tried to put people together with songs that I thought would work, guitars together with stuff that I thought together, put Lee Oscar together with stuff I thought would work, you know, and so it worked out good because, I mean, the album did take that long to get everybody's schedule so that, you know, when you're I can do it, Joe, I can do it, you know, but I'm on like a 9-month tour, basically.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he ain't playing every day, but he just goes home for a week, goes back out the road. You know, and it's hard, you know, and I know because when he's worked what was home, I'd be gone for a while, over somewhere, and blah, blah, blah. So that was the main thing that sort of why it took so long, you know, and then I wanted to do some of it in the studio, so since me and John Sebastian lived near each other, we got in the studio together, me, him, and Juma Sultan from, you know, the Jimi Hendrix band, played Woodstock, Jim, the percussionist, and Bruce Cass lives out here where we live at, and David Bromberg, he lives not far, so, you know, and Arlen Rock, so Arlen, we could all do stuff in here, and so that worked out. Some of the other guests, I had to, you know, work with them via, you know, technology, you know.
Right.
So, but, I mean, all these people are seriously professional.
Yeah.
So, but Feed the Poor, the reason I got interested in that, because young Gabriel Jagger, he sent me some of his poetry, and I think Gabe was 19 when he wrote that. Gabe about 21 now. That shows you how old the record is. And he sent me his poetry, and the thing that caught my ear was my eye and captured my feel was what the first stanza was. People lying in the gutter, no father and no mother. Everyone walks past because they're hypnotized by money's trance. And I said, man, I've sort of felt like that before, you know, being on that side of poor, you know, and homeless, and that a lot of musicians have. So that captured me, and I said, well, that I was going to call the album "Feed the Poor," but I didn't want to come out too heavy with it. So, you know, and that really got me, you know, motivated to do some different things, you know, some different things that like that song "All Time Used to Be." It's just a love song I wrote to my wife. You know, I love you in the morning, I love you in the evening, afternoon, and you know that was. But she had to forget about her old time used to be. and we had a couple of songs like the things I did with Carla Cook. One of them I wrote, "Awakening Shaking," with Carla, and the other one's called "Someday Someway," which my friend Jimmy Barnett wrote. And Carla came for one song, and she found me and her had a nice chemistry, so we did 2 songs, you know, and it just worked out good because she's such a great singer. I mean, she doesn't sound like her dad, Sam Cooke, but at the end of Someday Someway, she does some Sam Cooke's favorite, you know, his famous turn, whoa, whoa, whoa. She does a couple of those runs, and you get to put a little hair on the back of your neck, you know. Yeah, man. But she's a great singer, and I was just great to be introduced to her. I'd never met her. Whereas somebody like Albert Lee, I mean, Albert played together. He's one of those people I don't have to talk to. You know, you just what key, Joe?
Yeah.
Because when we played together live, you just start playing, and he can catch whatever I'm doing, and I can sometimes keep up with Albert. You know, he's a gypsy, so it's sort of hard to keep up with him sometimes. But and it was the same with Arlen Roth, same with David Bromberg. I mean, I don't have to talk to Arlen Roth to play all that psychobilly shit he played on 7 and 7 Ends. You know, the crazy man, all the overtones and octaves and I love it. You know, I think Arthur Lee would have loved that song.
Yeah.
And let's see who else was on it. And Jesse Johnson from the time. He played on my dance song, "The Thing," which I you know, I'd written that song years ago, but I needed the right situation. After Jesse found coming out like you know, just coming out full bore with his solo, and I loved it. And of course, I got to have some of my heroes that I looked up to. Dion's on there singing.
Oh, yeah.
Dion wrote the song "Blues Coming On." It took me 2 years to please him with the song. I did about 7 different versions, and and Dion was after the 6th version. I did the 7th, and he says, "I like it better than the past 6." It's Chevy King. So he was kind to me because he left his voice in, and so me and him did a duet, and so I did him a favor. I did a song on his new album. He's got a new album called Blues with Friends. So we did a trio, me, him, and Van Morrison, which worked out really good. So that's it. And let's see, big deal that was really turned out great. I played on this guy's record. And said, Joe, I said, can you play on my record? And because I hadn't seen Mitch Ryder in years. Mm-hmm. And boy, does he sound good? Ooh, my goodness!
I had the privilege of interviewing him a few years ago, and he was such a gracious guy too. And gosh, he always blows me away every time I hear him. Mitch Ryder.
Yeah. He's a national treasure.
Yes,
and
he is.
I was fortunate to have like I said, David Bromberg on there, and Sebastian, and with Sebastian and Kev Moe, we played mostly acoustic, like the 2 tracks that I did with Sebastian, the first one being Lonely Weekend. I played a 12-string. I always played 12-string acoustic, and Kev played the resonator steel, and Sebastian, he played the harmonica, and Bruce Katz really solidified it with that great piano in Juma with the congas. Boy, I just love the way, even Sebastian, but Lonely Weekend fell together too, and I was able to get Ray Walker, one of the last living Jordanaires, the bass singer. Ray sang bass for me on that one, and I think what's the other song I'm thinking about? Waddy.
Oh yeah, Waddy Wachtel. Yeah.
Yeah, I have, Waddy's sort of like the other producer of this record, because every time I hit a brick wall with something, I'd call Waddy, and he would just be, God damn it, let me see if I can get that fucking program. Ah, fucking shit. Program. Don't worry about it. So I know why Keith had him in Expensive Wine. I know why. Because it's like having a producer on stage, and he's a truth meter. So if you don't want to hear the truth about the show, don't ask why. There ain't no filter, baby. When you like me, that's what I want to hear the truth. I don't want someone to blow smoke up my skirt. And that's why I think me and Waddy get along really, really good, because we just bust balls all day. That's all. Bust balls.
Well, with this album, I mean, it sounds like you love all the songs. And I when I ask an artist, about a song on their album, I never ask them to pick their favorite, because it's like picking your favorite child, right? You just don't do it. But what would you, as far as all the songs that you have on this album, which one would you point to and say, hey, listen to this song. If you like it, you're going to love the rest of the album. What can you pick one that would serve that role as like a calling card for the album?
Well, I guess Feed the Poor, because you got everybody's on that cut, and everybody played 110%. You got Dion on acoustic, you got Waddy on acoustic, you got me on electric, you got Eric Gales taking a solo, you got Tom Hainbridge on drums, Dorian Randolph on drums, and Juma Sultan on percussion, and you got Dion singing the first couple of verses, me singing the second one, Dion singing another one, then me going to church at the end. It's just, it's sort of what this record's sort of about. It's just all of us, and nobody gets in anybody's way. Everybody is real cognizant of a we instead of a me thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, on this record, then, I mean, if I counted correctly, this is your 24th album, I think it is. What made this album different to record compared to all the rest of your body of work that you've done?
Well, I think this is about the 26th to 27th. I believe
Oh,
it's
okay.
27th.
Okay.
But the other ones are mostly, really collectors out of it, be bitch to find. And,
Yeah.
But at any rate, I mean, this record, what's a little bit different, I think about this record is the geography. I did a record similar to this about 20 years ago. It was called Great Guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And on that record, I had Bonnie Raitt, Buddy Guy, Otis Rush, Matt Guitar Murphy, Dave Mount Brown, Scotty Moore, Little Charlie, my co-producer Steve Cropper, Robert Jr. Lockwood, Otis Graham from England, and Taj Mahal, and Tower Power horn section, and the Johnny Nocturne horn section. So we did all that. I was fortunate to have Cropper because Cropper co-produced it with me, and it was just, having Cropper, which is, it's another truth meter. So, but anyway, but I did that when I was living on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. But it's a difference here on the East Coast. I find myself playing more acoustically, because this is where the sort of folk boom really kicked off at,
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many great players up here. I mean, Sebastian, there's Larry Campbell who played with Dylan, there's Arlen Roth who can play anything, David Brownberg around the way, so many, I know Jimmy Lovino, I know it's so many people I'm forgetting, but, guys who play electric, but they can really play acoustic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a different thing. And being on the East Coast, I was able to work with East Coast musicians. I mean, if I was on the West Coast, I probably wouldn't have been able to put John Sebastian on the record. If I was on the West Coast, I wouldn't have been able to put Arlen Roth, David Brownberg, Dion, so it's a different thing.
Yeah. I see. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, Joe. I've got about 4 or 5 more questions. Do you have time for those, or do I need to keep it short here?
No, for sure.
All right.
Sure.
So,
whatever you want.
What do you make of the music business today, especially the blues business? What's your view of all this? What's going on these days?
Well, I think in the history books it's going to be like music pre-COVID, music after COVID.
Yeah.
So I think your question is what I think about the blues business in particular. Before this jumped off, and I think that it's gotten a real infusion of younger people playing. Mm-hmm. I mean, a serious infusion. I mean, if there was 100,000 blues bands now it's 300,000, or more. Mm-hmm. Young ladies singing blues, young guys singing blues, rocking the blues, getting funky. It's so many of them, and I'm glad. But I hope that blues was a big tent. It always was. That's why you could have Muddy Waters on the show with Johnny Winters, on the show with Joe Louis Walker. I remember the last show I did with Stevie Ray Vaughan with Stevie, B.B. King, and the group I was in at the Concert Pavilion, and that was in the 1990.
Stevie Ray died in 90, so it'd been 90 or before.
It was in 90. It was in 90.
Yeah.
But it was a big tent then. It was room for traditional guys like BB to be playing with younger, to be on shows with younger guys like Steve and myself, and there was a little renaissance with Robert Cray coming out and the Thunderbirds and Room Full of Blues and different. It was really cool, and it took a while for it to sort of get back to that, but now it's sort of it's a big tent. You've got everybody from Chris Stone to Joe Bonamassa, Eric Gale to Joe Bonamassa, to Derek Truck, to Susan, to Shamika Copeland, Gary Clark Jr., to Wayne Shepherd, to Beth Hart, to on and on and on and on and on and on. So I think it's healthy in that extent. I just think that it's just to be quite honest, it's tipped to more rock blues. It's tipped the good paydays are rock blues. The focus is on rock blues. The press is on rock blues. Everything has tipped in that direction. And so if you're going to play more of a traditional or a funky or a soulful blues, you're really going to have to come up with something. I mean, Gary Clark Jr. was hitting it pretty good for a minute there, and he sort of stopped for a second, but I know he's going to be coming back strong, you know. But, I mean, I think that the blues, as far as a genre, is, you know, it's always going to be here.
Yeah. Well, kind of related to that, what has been some of the best and worst changes that you've seen in the business?
I think one of the best maybe what I just mentioned, that a lot of younger people are going to be playing it and what have you. And I see them, Jemiah Rogers, and it's all kind of young people that are doing this, that are going to be taking it forward for 40, 50 years from now, if it's going, they're live. And what a couple of things that I think could be done better. Number one is, I no disrespect to anybody, but I travel all around the world. I see, I've been on all kind of festivals, and I see, that there's artists like Beth Hart, Joanne Shaw Taylor, who's a friend of mine, Joanne Connor, Anna Popovich, Samantha Fisher, Sister Amanda Fisher, and they're up there. Larkin Poe, up there. I've done the shows with everybody I'm naming. And there is a whole group of other women who don't play guitar, who don't look like, they just came out of a tanning salon or just came out, from getting their hair done. And these are a lot of African American sisters, especially in Chicago, who can sing their asses off, but can't get on a festival because they don't play a guitar or because they don't fit into the blues rock mold. Right. And I think if there's one drawback is that, there should be room enough for everybody. There really should be room enough for everybody. But what I do see happening in my experience is that it just doesn't seem like it's a lot of room for them. And that's got to change. Yeah. It really does.
So, well, in addition to that, you just pretty much answered my next question, and that's, what would you do to change the business? And it sounds like you just answered that one there. Would there be anything else you would do to change the business?
Well, I would think, it's this business is feast or famine, and the opportunities are, so they say you got to make your own luck, but it's hard to make your own luck, sometimes when you don't have an opportunity to go to do anything. And right now, I think another musician commented on that. I think it was Ringo Starr commented on it. A lot of the acts, they will refuse to have an opening act because, for one reason, of the management, we want to keep all the money, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. But just like Ringo said, at that rate, the Beatles would have never got over because they opened for everybody. Right. And so did I opened for everybody. I mean, the Stones opened for everybody. I mean, Taj Mahal opened for people. You go on and for the bigger wigs in the music now, the guys that are making the big bucks. Yeah. To not have opening acts, because they all open for somebody. Right. Somebody gave them a break. I think that, that they should take a look at that and maybe just, kind of remember where you come from.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
So, well, hey, assuming this pandemic is over with this year, and that's a big if. I know you mentioned it in the beginning. You guys have gotten clobbered. You know, I like I told you earlier, I spend a lot of time in Nashville, and you know, part of I'm single, and I knock off work. I like going and catching a band somewhere, and boy, everything kind of went dark in Nashville. And I mean, I'm up here keeping my dad company. He's elderly, and I can work wherever I want to, so I come over here and keep him company. But even the places up here in the Smoky Mountains, it's hard to, the bands are just now coming back to play some here. So said all that to say this, kind of got off on a tangent there, but assuming things start lining up, what's on your radar for the next year or so? Are you going to be being able to get some of your gigs that were canceled back, booked again, or what you got on your plate?
Yes. Some things have been pushed back to October and September, but the big festivals, they've postponed till next year, but that's with the caveat that, depending on where the world is at that time with the pandemic and what's going on. So, but I'm playing 2 shows. They're drive-in shows, playing a place called the Tupelo Music Hall, great place up in New Hampshire here. Mm-hmm. And then I'm playing another drive-in an upstate, farther upstate in New York, about the Canadian border. And that's what people have been really delving into that to try to make that really something that could be not a total alternative to what we're used to, but at least a beginning of a first step of trying to find some kind of way to do what we do, but obviously we can't do it the way we used to do it, so to find a new way to do it. And the drive-in theater thing, the drive-in thing, and a lot of places are going to be using their parking lots,
Yeah.
Like Live Nation. Live Nation has all these big arenas that they've got, and they figured out, well, let's just use some of the parking lots, and if you can get 500 cars there, and a big gigantic screen and stuff, you can do your social distancing until we hopefully, knock on wood, we find some sort of, I won't say cure, but some sort of antidote.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's the right direction to go.
Yeah.
I just hope Live Nation doesn't monopolize everything, because they sure want to do it.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah.
Well, I run a news page on my webzine, or my webzine. It's called Boomerosity Buzz, where I kind of find all the entertainment news that fits the kind of things my readers are interested in. And that it's funny you mentioned Live Nation, because I just posted a link to an article out there about how they're cutting the musicians' pay, the advances. They're getting a lot tighter on cancellations, and whether or not it's the pandemic or anything else, it's pretty ugly. They're getting pretty. Live Nation and those other 2 biggies are kind of turning into dictators, it sounds like. I'd hate to be a musician and have to deal with them.
And what the musicians are going to have to do, they're going to have to get off their duff and say, hey, you know what? Hey, Live Nation, last I know, none of you guys play a guitar, none of you play an instrument. Go back to selling cars like you used to do. Because what's even more disappointing than what you said, and I read that article, and I was telling my agent, part managing me also, I was saying, man, I really, I wonder how this is going to work, because, I'm thinking Live Nation's going to want to get a hold of the drive-ins and all that too. Joe, I've done some Live Nation shows. You're up at the big wigs then, and it's all what goes along with that. But if I'm playing to 2,500 people or 2,000 people, I'm happy.
Right.
I paid for 100,000. I paid for $500,000. But I mean, it doesn't. I just want to work and be able to reach an audience. But I don't want to be leaned on. And I'm telling them, to make a long story, I said, well, hopefully, they won't get all in here and not monopolize this. And what did I say that for? This morning, my friend hits me up from England. He says, Joe, he sent me this fucking thing. You're not going to believe it. They're doing, England was one of the first places that wanted to do this too. Well, now they've got like 200 theaters that want to do a drive-in. And guess who wants to monopolize on all of it? Live Nation.
Wow.
And that happened in the space of that article that you read and we've all seen.
Yeah.
And now that happened in the space of 4 or 5 days. They just made an out and out power grab for all the drive-ins in England. I mean, it's so fucked up, you know. And I was just talking to my wife. I was saying, you know, the musicians should get together, the musicians, and just say, hey, you know what? Hey, man, to hell with you guys. It's a new world. Let's make it a new world that's good for everybody. That's what all this demonstrating everything's about now. You know, let's make it an even playing field for everybody. Because we know if Live Nation gets in there, they're going to be charging $8 for a beer. I don't drink, but shit, that's fucked up. $12, $20 for a beer, $60 for a parking space. A car of 4 people is probably going to cost you $400.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and then they're going to want the musicians to take 20% less. You pay for your own hotel. When you pay for your own flight, if you get hit by lightning and you don't show up, your life. You know what I mean? You know.
Yeah.
You know, I got nothing to. I mean, you talk about kick someone when they're down.
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on, Live Nation.
Yeah.
Kick us when we're down.
Yeah.
You know, well, they got news for them. I don't think it's gonna be as easy peasy as they think it is.
No, I think you know what, I think should be done to a certain point, and I think there's a great network of it out there, and that is kind of going back to way old school, like way in the beginning of rock, and you know, as blues and rock were kind of walking together. And I think it's too many of these places for Live Nation or AEG or, you know, any of the others to pick up. And that's working deals with churches and schools. You know, some of the colleges, of course, are already picked up by the big boys. But, you know, it can network out a lot better than that and go independent. You know, and you and I both got to be careful what we say about the big guys because we have to deal with them from time to time. But you're right. I mean, you guys have so much on the line from the standpoint of just trying to survive. I mean, your music gets ripped off, and all you've got left is live shows and merchandise, and you know, the labels and the booking companies are wanting big chunks of that, and that's, you know, you guys don't have much left to do after those things are gone, you know. Yeah. So it's
well, I think I think if anybody worth their salt is worried about Live Nation not giving them a gig, they shouldn't be a musician because Live Nation plays favorites anyway. They're only going to go for the big guys. So if they get control of medium to fair size room situations, they're going to monopolize who they want to use, who they think is good. They're going to push their own people, and that's just the way it's going to be. So you got nothing freaking to speak up about. I mean, nothing to worry about speaking up. So we might as well speak up, you know?
No, that's a good point.
I mean, shit, what the hell? Because, I mean, if they get their way, let's just think about it. If they get their way, they're going to have to drive in, pay us 20% less. For what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, there's no gigantic overhead. Stuff's already there.
Yeah. You're right.
You know, I don't know, but I got no love for Live Nation and AEG, you know.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
None.
Well, I've got one more question for you, but I was going to tell you something that you might be interested in buying a copy and reading. I read it late last year, and it's a book called Rockonomics. And, you know, a lot of it you would know about and all that because you're in the business. And, you know, I'm a business major, so reading about the music business, the nuts and bolts behind the scenes, that's kind of like porn for me, right? So I bought this book last year. And I was on vacation in Florida reading it, and I thought, man, I want to interview this guy because, you know, he used to be an economics guru for both Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. both of their presidencies.
Mhm.
And I'm reading this thing, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. He's done a lot of interviews with a bunch of different people and, firsthand interviews with different artists and all this kind of stuff. And so I Googled him. I wouldn't even finish with the book. And I Googled him, and Joe, the book came out in June of last year. And the guy committed suicide the March before. So his book wasn't even out yet, and he already offed himself. It blew my mind. I couldn't finish the book for a couple weeks because I was so distraught over it. But the book is amazing. Now, I think you might find some bits in there that might be eye-opening to you, maybe not. But he goes into the history of the business, where it's at today, and some ideas of where it's going. And it's fascinating. You might really like it. But the name of the book is Rockonomics, all one word, Rockonomics. And his name was Alan Kruger. And but it's a great book that I think you might enjoy reading. And I'd love to hear your comments on it if you do read it and get your feedback on that. But my final question for you is, and hopefully you and I will get to talk a lot more in the future, and maybe every other interview I'll ask you this question, and that's this, and I'm sure you've been asked it before. When you step off that great tour bus of life up at the great gig in the sky, I always like to borrow that from Pink Floyd, how do you want to be remembered, and what do you hope your legacy is?
Well, I think, my legacy is simply that I feel like Willie Dixon said, you're not a pure blues guy, you're not a pure rock guy, you're just all over the place. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want my legacy to say. He was in this place, he was in that place, but he was really all over the place. And that goes from music style, lifestyle, everything. Mm-hmm. And that's, to me, that is who I am. That's my legacy, and that's what I like about younger people playing blues now, is that they're not stuck with 1, 4, 5 chord changes. They're not stuck playing a shuffle or a solo. I mean, they're stretching it out. They're doing what some of them are putting rap in it, some of them are putting jazz, some of them are putting, go for it. I mean, the blues it's a template. It's a template. But you have to, if you're going to do blues, you have to have the essence of the blues, and the essence of the blues is cathartic. That's what its purpose was for the people that invented it.
Right.
Since they couldn't do what they want, they couldn't go where they want, they couldn't be what they want, so they have to find a way to get around that, or better yet, to be able to take it in and spin it out. And that's what, if you listen to the Funhouse, he ain't singing, he's spitting it. The rappers say, well, I'm going to switch some lyrics, they need to go back and get some Funhouse. He's spitting the Howlin' Wolf.
Yep.
Getting cold, my goodness. I mean, this ain't for the faint-hearted, you know what I mean? It's like, whoa, you got my attention.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Well, that's great. Well, Joe, this was a lot of fun. I hope we get to talk a lot more in the future, and you always have an open door with me and my publication. For anything new you've got coming out, you'll always have a friendly open door here, and I look forward to talking to you more in the future. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope to catch you live somewhere around here when the touring starts coming back up, and maybe we can shake each other's hand at that time.
Oh, man, I'd love to, man. Love to.
So, well, hey, you take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you again down the road sometime.
Thank you. I appreciate it, my brother. You have a good one.
You too, sir. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
This has been another fun-filled episode of Boomerosity with your host and producer, Randy Patterson. The theme song is Roll the Dice and is recorded and used by permission from Quinton Hope. Quinton is spelled Quinten, and Hope is Hope. And you can find out more about Quinton at QuintonHope.com. Post-production is done by Cardinal Sins Productions. The Boomerosity name, logo, and content is copyright protected. Segments may only be used with written permission by Boomerosity and or its assignees. Inquiries should be directed to input@boomerosity.com. Copyright 2025.